Hello, World Tank Blizzers. It's a Littlefinger. Happy Friday, June 21st. Time for a store review. Got a lot to talk about. Going to go ahead and talk about some of the events going on as well as what's in store. As you can see, I've got the E10 pulled up here. Yes, it looks just like the E100, but this is a Tier 7 heavy tank. And yeah, we've been over these seasons. This is the fourth season. You know how these work. It's a 90-day event. So don't get too wrapped up in the fact, you've got a lot of time. I would focus on trying to get this tank. I've really enjoyed it. Really not much point playing it until you get all of the modules and equipment upgraded here. And real quickly, how to get. You can get them from the Battle Pass. You can get them from events and quests. You can also buy them in store, which I will talk about briefly, and then you can get them in your clan missions, raiding battles, and tournaments. So you'll progress up there. You can get those for free. You should be able to get this tank all the way. If you're patient, you played a lot of games, for the 90 days, you should at least be able to get this tank here. And win rate not been that great in the tank. Teams these days, oh my God, so bad. Don't want to get on that soapbox. But I'm averaging 2,500 damage in a Tier 7 tank. That's kind of insane. So the tank has certainly lived up to its hype a little bit. And then also we've got the Rewind event, which has, in my opinion, the K2, which is what you should be shooting for if you want to participate in this event. These little boosters here, snapshot boosters, you actually do have to activate them. So after you complete this first level, you'll get them, but they'll go into your storage under boosters. And so you'll have to come in here just like you would something else, and you'd have to install it or activate it, whatever you want to call it. And those will give you 500 per battle. So that helps you out along the way. Each level is 1,000 of these snapshots. So in order to get you've got to get 14,000 of them to get to the K2. There is a nice reward if you can get to level 50, and that is the Caro. But that's going to cost you a lot of money. And I've kind of borderline whether or not I think it is worth spending that much money. We'll talk about that in store as well. But here is the K2. I've played several battles in this, and it doesn't look too impressive here in the garage. The armor profile on this is really, really strong. The gun, however, lacks a little bit to be desired. So it's a nice mix of a tank. So if you really want to get to Caro, I think you're pretty much going to have to spend the $42 here to get these. This is going to give you 20 levels. This is going to give you 20 levels. You're going to go straight up to level 45 there, so it shouldn't be too much more for you to get to level 50. However, yeah, that's a lot of cash to drop down. So if we're saying we're getting 600 gold, $42, that's 25,000 gold equivalents here in order to get the K2 and the Caro. So if you say 10,000 for the Caro, 7, you're basically 10,000 too much gold, in my opinion. So just be wary of that. In order for me to get the K2 so quickly, I went ahead and purchased this $12 bundle. It unlocks 2 extra missions. I'll show you that in a second. And it gives you the 10 levels automatically. And the part of the other reason that I went ahead and spent the 12 bucks on this was this 1950 of these screens really helped me finish out the E10, which is why I was able to also play the E10. So I just wanted to show you here in the missions, you'll get 2 extra missions. Each one of those are going to be for 200 of these snapshots. So that's an extra 400 snapshots per day. So that's how that works. Of course, we've got the lottery machine. We've talked about those. They're going to have the live feed and do a drawing for the lucky balls there. So we'll see how that goes. Not much else I really want to talk about. Okay, so yeah, so here's a couple things here. There are some of these boxes that you can fill and then buy. Just make sure that they are filled. Actually, pretty good as far as your dollar per gold ratio here. So this one's going to be 833 if you can get this one filled for 60 bucks. And these ones start to drop down. I think this one's close to 600, which is right around where I say is a pretty good deal. The benefit here is that it's a low dollar amount. Typically, when we see the low dollar gold for sale in the store further down, you're not getting a good deal. You're getting $450 or less, so $350, $300. So these are good deals for the low dollar amount. All right. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was this surprise bundle. And this also was another purchase I made for $12 with the screens here. And while you look at it on the surface here, you're not getting a great gold per dollar exchange rate. However, as you've seen from my videos in the past, it comes with a Lucky 6 container, which guarantees you a tank. I have probably 98% of the tanks between tier 6 and tier 10, which means that I dropped another 7,500 gold out of that on top of the 3,000. So now I'm sitting at 10,500 gold for this. So you have to be in my situation with a lot of tanks for that to drop gold, or else you're going to probably end up with a tier 6 or tier 7 tanks. We're yet to see what the lottery balls provide as far as way of gold in exchange for those, so that's still to be determined. And then you get a surprise container, and the surprise container contains one of these containers here. So you've got some good containers here, some tier 10s in here, some Chimeras, nice tank. So the way these containers, and I hope I'm not saying this incorrectly, but basically you get a 25% chance of getting the tank or 75% chance of getting the gold. I drew the Lansing container, I opened it, I got the tank, and I got an equivalent of another 3,500 gold out of it. So I ended up like 13,000 gold out of my $12 purchase. So it turned out to be a good deal for me. So I just wanted to point that out. Surprise bundle can be a good gold exchange for those of us that have a lot of tanks. All right, so we're going to skip over everything else. Don't suggest you spend money anywhere else. So we're going to look at the tanks. We've got the indestructible defense here with the KV5 and the T54 Mod 1. It's going to come with a little bit of gold. It's going to come with the 5 lotto balls there. So if we say $30 times 600, that's 18,000 gold. That's 9,000 per tank, which is a high on a per tank basis, but you're going to get some gold in return. Plus you're getting these screens as well. And as you know from my previous KV5, kind of an underrated tank in my opinion. Armor's actually pretty good on it. It's obviously slow. It's got an accurate gun. If you like that kind of play style. And the T54 Mod 1 is a slower medium tank, more heavily armored. You can see with the slope on the front there. Again, not my favorite medium tank, both of those being a little bit on the slow side. So keep that in mind. And then we've got the Unbreakable Power. I think I talked about this one last week. So $24 here, multiplied by 600, that's going to be 14,000, so about 7,000. Keep in mind, Tankenstein is a tier 7 tank. Interesting thing about this tank is it does have 2 different guns you can choose from, more of a derp gun and one of a little bit faster fire, higher damage per minute gun. And then the M6 probably may already have a tank similar to this in the tier 7 version of it. If you can keep this thing basically face on, kind of just wiggle the turret a little bit because your weak spots here are in the cheeks. This got nice strong armor on the front, but once you get to the side, super weak. Speed's not too bad, gun's not too bad. You should have good gun depression, just 10 degrees on this tank. And 30 boosters there and the screens as well. So also not a horrible deal. However, $30 here, wow, that's really expensive for a tier 9. Yeah, 18,000 gold, do not recommend. The Object 752, however, is a nice tank. It seems to work really well. You've got a 2-shot autoloader with 4 seconds in between shots, so you can do 860 damage in 4 seconds, pull back, reload, and try to repeat that as often as possible. But yeah, not on this deal here, I would not recommend it. We've got the Storming here. I'm pretty sure we talked about this one last week. The price on this one, 42 multiplied by 600. Whoa, that's 25,000. That's 12,000 per tank here. Soviet container has a drop chance of 10% of getting a tank inside of it. You're getting 3 of those. You're getting 3 lotto balls. So it's still very expensive. Upside here is the 5X does apply to all tanks. You know, I have not played this a whole bunch. I did play this last week prior to doing the store review, and what I found, not unsurprisingly, is the tank works really well up close. Once you start getting shots at distance, the gun really does kind of troll you a little bit, and is not super accurate at distance. Does have some nice armor here, 2295 damage per minute, 460 per shot, 7 degrees of gun depression. So a lot working for this tank. And then the Object 274A, I really enjoy playing this medium. It just seems like a good all-around tank, does a lot of stuff well. 2,100 damage per minute, 310 average damage, 7 degrees of gun depression with that 55 kilometers per hour as its top speed. But yeah, that's a lot for that tank. So we've got a bundle here. You can see each of these 2 tanks here are 5,000 gold each. Both are tier 7 tanks, so 4,500 per tank. It's not too bad. The 5Xs are only for the tank themselves. The M4 FL10 Hybrid Nation tank, they kind of took a lot of different aspects of different tanks and put them together. Basically I believe one of the first autoloaders that came out in the game. And you can see here, reload times between shots is 1.3 seconds with 3 shells in the magazine. So in 2.6 seconds, you can get 3 shots out. You're doing 160 damage, so not super high damage, but the rate of fire of 1.3 seconds really throws people off, especially at tier 7. So it's a good opportunity for you to learn the mechanics there of the autoloaders. And of course, the Gravedigger is one of the famous autoloaders with 6 shells in the magazine, only doing 90 shots per damage. I feel that this tank has been power crept a little bit. With all the heavies in the tank, this tank does seem a little bit easier to pen than it did when it first came out. This thing was almost unpennable except for this lower plate, really. You get some really strange bounces off of the side of it. But now pretty much any tank can load heat and shoot these cheeks. So just be wary of that, especially if you're playing it. Try to angle this away, kind of give it a little bit of an extra angle to your opponents. Don't just face your gun right at them unless obviously you are shooting. But it's a fun all-around tank. For the price, yeah, you know, it's okay. I might just say just drop it on the Gravedigger, but I do like the play style of the M4 as well. Dangerous Duo, talked about this last week. Not a bad price here, I don't think, for these 2 tanks. I enjoy the M4. Yes, it was pointed out to me in a comment that APCR is your standard. And with some of the changes in the mechanics of the game, APCR has kind of lost its luster a little bit and not as good as the AP due to some of the angle mechanics that go into the game now. But like I said before, it packs a little punch, does that nice alpha damage, a little bit like the Chimera. Certainly not comparing it to, I don't put this in a must own like the Chimera. And then the WZ112-2, you know, it's the standard Soviet Chinese variant of the Soviet spaced armored tanks here. So you may already have one very similar to it, which makes buying this bundle a little less intriguing. And yeah, we talked about the Storming. So here it is for 15,000 gold. So not much else to say about that. So that's going to wrap up the store. Tried to get through this as quick as possible. Yeah, the one thing I didn't talk about with these sandbox containers, guys, just be aware that these are for tier 2 through tier 4 tanks. I don't know if you've tried to play a battle lately in tier 2, but yeah, it takes a good 10-15 minutes just to get into a battle on the NA server. So certainly not recommending that. So guys, hope you're enjoying your summer. These gravity modes out right now, so at least we got that going for us. And of course, have fun out there. Stay safe, get educated, not fingered. Littlefinger out.